No, it's not the WWE, but it is wrestling. And there's a lot going down on mats in Baldwin County. Greg, all day long we saw fans come by and pay their respects and spend a little time in Hammer and Hank's childhood home. Whether you own a cat or a big dog or a small dog, just like Ollie here, it's important to make sure that they are as comfortable as possible when you're celebrating tonight. Now, it was a totally different second half. The Saints erupted for 19 unanswered points. They just won the Class 5A state title. From pen to paper, high school athletes all across the country and right here on the Gulf Coast signed their way to a college degree. Well, compared to last year, it was a little bit harder to find Auburn and Alabama fans out at numerous sports bars here in Baldwin County, but that might not be a bad thing. A lot of them staying home and watching the games from my favorite spot, the couch. We've seen all across the country this week, from the NBA to the WNBA and even the MLB and other professional sports organizations, athletes have been speaking up about racial injustice in this country. The 2020 high school football season got kicked off tonight with plenty of new rules and protocols to help protect these athletes. We've seen multiple people try to get out in the water here and test the water, as you like to say. The NCAA waived all in-person visits and labeled it as a dead period in recruiting until April 15th of this year, thus creating the same challenges for next year's class in finding a dream school. Faith Academy, UMS Wright, and Satsuma all come in 2, 3, and 4. With the region wrapped up, St. Paul's, they hosted LaFleur tonight.
2, 1, let's go. I know that might sound crazy. It's one of the safest sports you can participate in.
Wrestling has been a sanctioned high school sport in Alabama for boys for decades. Now, a new crop of athletes is stepping onto the mats. Girls and their participation in the state has increased over the past 2 years from double digits to triple digits. But there is no official state championship for these competitors.
Think MMA. Girls see MMA on TV and they're like, well, hey, you know, if those girls can do that, then I can do this.
For girls wrestling to be sanctioned, 20% of the schools in the state have to declare it a sport, and it has to be approved by the Alabama High School Athletic Association.
We were probably right about 10 to 11%, I believe. The schools want it. We'll bring championships for girls wrestling. We just have to follow our constitution.
With so many options for sports these days, wrestling might not be the first choice for most girls.
My brother's been wrestling since like 5th grade. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try it. And after all the years like watching him, I'm like, this seems pretty fun.
Like if I talk to a guy about it, he's like, you wrestle? And I'm like, yeah. And then I kind of like get a little bit embarrassed. But every time I tell a girl about it, they're usually like, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Battling the boys on the mat is nothing new for Kaylee Holder, a sophomore at Daphne High School. She has more than a dozen matches this season against the boys with only 2 losses.
Definitely like teaches you like to work a lot harder whenever you wrestle boys, and I think that some girls take it for granted because they just wrestle girls.
Coach Jeff Coate has the final say on whether or not his girls will face off with a male challenger. He would soon like to see their own division. Jeff Coate and his team know growing the sport will take a lot of work. Flowers lay at the front door of Hank Aaron's childhood home in remembrance of the Mobile legend, an icon that brought the sport to its feet during the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Today, fans from across the country paid their respects by visiting the home, from taking pictures out in front of the stadium to walking through the hallowed rooms that Aaron once ran through as a child.
He meant a lot to me and a lot of other baseball fans growing up.
Brian Dalby, a former professional baseball player himself and now part-time umpire, was here in Mobile on business, but felt compelled to stop by the childhood home. Dalby watched hundreds of Hank's home runs through his lifetime, but it was what Hank was off the field that left a lasting impact on his own career.
Well, he's just such an inspiration. I mean, he was an inspiration to everybody. I mean, with all he went through in his life and his career and the difficulties he faced, during his career and then after his career, he was just such a gentleman.
They don't make people like this anymore.
Gary Alford took the day to pay tribute by spending time in the home and around the grounds. A longtime Mets fan from Queens, New York, Alford remembers Aaron for his power and grace on the field.
Let me tell you, it was like you just see the momentum and you say, he getting ready to hit one. Or like when a lot of times they would throw at him and whatnot, you say, well, now watch this now.
From pen to paper, high school athletes all across the country and right here on the Gulf Coast sign their way to a college degree.
The community's watching. They're looking. They want to see you succeed.
The past year has been nothing short of strenuous for high school athletes of all sports. Seasons canceled, campus visits turned virtual, and coaching relationships built over the phone.
I mean, traveling and going to camps and doing all that stuff with, your friends is one of the most memorable things of recruiting. But I would say it just kind of got more annoying because you really couldn't see what they had to offer.
Even during National Signing Day, some celebrations were socially distant and virtual. Jordan Mosley, a standout at Miguel Tulin, was a longtime Tennessee commit, but after a change of heart, he decommitted.
And I think Northwestern hit me up the next day on Twitter. They asked me if I would be interested, and I was like, of course.
Today, he signed with Northwestern, a school he never visited in person.
Actually, I didn't do a virtual visit with Northwestern. I mean, they sent me like a video of their campus and whatnot. What really drew me to the school was more so like the care they actually have for, for the actual person, not the football player.
Over in Fairhope, star quarterback Riley Leonard signed to play with Duke next year. The process was unlike anything he's ever experienced.
It was a hectic month or so that I had to commit, going from never seeing any of these places to fully committing to one of them.
Leonard was lucky enough to be able to take a visit on his own to Duke, but most kids were not as fortunate.
The schools didn't even contact me throughout my junior season, so a lot of the guys this year were cut out of scholarships and things like that.
5, 6, 7, 8.
From marching to playing an instrument.
I absolutely love everything that band is and everything it stands for.
To traveling to rival stadiums.
In the stands, it's a lot of fun. I mean, we're just having a good time.
Some things will change this fall, starting with no travel for Baldwin County High School bands to away games.
Away games and bus rides are one of the best parts of band, so that's probably one of the most disappointing things to lose.
Away games are definitely, they're a lot of fun, but we'll do our best with home games and just make sure that we're keeping the morale up.
The usual 12-hour practice days over the summer have been cut in half to keep kids distance and limit interaction. And every member has their temperature taken before practice.
We've staggered the entrances so different sections come in at different times just to keep them social distance, and we can actually do our screening process that we were instructed to do.
Spanish Fort quarterback. They're trying to answer. Bird's going to throw it, but Midnight Stewart gets it off the guy's foot and takes it all the way back for the score. Let's take another look at this one. The receiver falls. It goes off his foot, and I believe they might call this the kick six. Yet again, we've had a week impacted by hurricanes here on the Gulf Coast, but tonight we have huge games in Class 7A for the final playoff spot in Region 1, and teams scrambling just to play one last game. With those two games in the books, we've got two teams heading to the next round of playoffs. Saraland is going to take on Spanish Fort in a rematch. Spanish Fort won that game early on in the season, 24-21, so that's going to be a great game in Spanish Fort next week. We're going to take you back to the year 1995. Here's a slice of what life was like. The Braves, well, they won the World Series. The first Toy Story movie came out to theaters. Hootie and the Blowfish won the Best New Artist at the Grammys, and Braveheart was the Best Picture. Miguel Tulin hosting Robertsdale for a 6A matchup. This is head coach Ernest Hill looking on. He was pleased with his defense. The Yellow Jacket defense was just all over the place tonight. Here's a nice sack here on Bears quarterback Grant Driver. Daphne head coach Kenny King, he was just itching to get on the field tonight. The Trojans, though, they didn't need him out there at all. Baker and Fairhope getting together in the lone 7A game of the night, but it's a big one between these two schools with playoff positioning on the line. This is going to be Hornet quarterback Landon Larrys finds Tyler Jones up the seam, and the big man, look at him rumble. Wolves deep in their own territory. The Lions aren't just playing lights out. Stay with me here. One by one, the lights went out at Lad Peoples Stadium. Look at this, complete darkness in the stadium. Don't adjust your set. The game was delayed for almost 20 minutes. Round one went to the Toros with a 14-10 win early on in the season. But this is playoffs, and this is the Troy commit, Jarris Williams. On the run, he's going to find the corner, and he's into the end zone. Early touchdown there for the Leopards. Toros on the next drive. Brendan Bird is going to roll to his left, and we're going to play our favorite game here. How did he get so wide open? Mario Montgomery is going to walk into the end zone. Spanish Fort on the board, 7-7. Well, Kim, the atmosphere has been just electric. Every game we've covered this week, they've all been electric. They've all lived up to their billing. Now tonight, the Toros are looking to do something that they couldn't do last year, which was win the state title. Last year, they came up just short against Oxford. This year, looking to flip the script.
Spanish Fort taking the field, looking for redemption in the Class 6A state title game. Toros down 10. The defense, though, turning up the volume. Cash Taylor going to be on a big sack. Toros take over. They need an answer here. Brendan Bird, he's going to hit his big man. Cooper Wilson, and truck stick time. Wilson takes it for a nice game. Then it's the Johnny Morris show. He rips off a big gain, some of his 94 yards in the first half, and the Toros are dancing. Bird then is going to call his own number, and he is in the end zone. Toros get on the board. It's 10-7. Then, crazy play here. Indians punting. The punter takes the snap, but his knee was on the ground. Ref rules him down. The Toros take over. Bird will then call his own number. He's going to take it all the way down to the 2-yard line. And well, if it isn't broke, you know the deal. Bird sneaks into the end zone. The Toros flip the script. In the second quarter, they take a 13-10 lead into half. But the second half, the Indians, they controlled the clock, they controlled the ball. They scored late in the fourth quarter to take a 17-13 lead. They added another touchdown to stretch it to 23-13. This game just went final. The Indians knock off the Toros, and the Toros come up just short again. They couldn't do what we saw St. Paul's do last night, which was to control the ball and control the clock. So the Toros come up just short again in the Class 6A state title game.